In the beginning, God created the universe, a decision some people seem quietly offended by. And yet, here we are. The universe exists, and somehow, by grace or accident as some would call it, so do you. If you are unlucky, you will spend a large part of your life believing that life is supposed to feel like a celebration, a pleasant sequence of comforts, distractions, achievements, and little rewards. You will assume the point is to enjoy yourself for as long as possible and suffer as little as possible. Then life will correct you, because sooner or later, you realize life is not a party, it is a struggle. And what makes that struggle harder is that most people cannot even tell you what the fight is for. They just know they are tired. They just know something feels heavy. They just know they did not ask to be thrown into any of this. You arrived in the middle of a battle that had already begun. A battle older than you, older than your habits, older than your culture, older than your little private ambitions. And most people have forgotten what they are even fighting for. But you still have to fight, partly because life hurts more when you refuse to, partly because something in you still wants the weight of adventure, and partly because you carry the stubborn hope that your life can become something meaningful. Choice by choice, day by day, you learn how to see reality. And the way you see reality becomes the shape of who you are. Some people try deliberately to understand themselves, to understand the world, to understand where they stand before God and before truth. Others drift. They let impulse decide. They let the crowd decide. They let appetite, fear, insecurity, and habit do the thinking for them. And then they call the result a personality. This is part of what confuses me about modern life. Physically, many of us live better than almost anyone in history. We have warmth, food, entertainment, technology, medicine, endless convenience. The average person today has access to comforts kings never had. And yet psychologically, people are collapsing. How can that be? How can humanity be standing at one of the highest points of material development while so many people feel inwardly lost, anxious, weak, fragmented, and numb? Our ancestors fought wars with blades and bare hands. They survived famine, plague, cold, uncertainty, and death at close distance. And here we are, drowning in abundance, burning our attention on triviality, feeding algorithms, making strangers rich with our distraction. So naturally the question appears, how strong were they? And how weak have we become? Or maybe the more disturbing question is this: what if we became weak because there is no longer enough demanded of us? No real test, no real friction, no real danger, no real confrontation with the edge, only convenience, only temptation, only endless little sedatives for the soul. The truth is, human beings do not live by facts alone. We live by stories. Every life is being interpreted through a story, a collective one and a personal one. Faith, nation, ideology, ambition, profession, self-image, desire, trauma. These are not just categories, they are narrative forces. They tell you what the world is, what you are, what matters, and what your suffering means. The problem is that many people never consciously choose the story they are living inside. They inherit it. They absorb it from family, culture, school, pain, envy, entertainment, social media, status games, and the emotional atmosphere around them. Then they grow up inside a worldview they never examined and call it reality. That is why so many people feel uncertain without knowing why. That is why so many people live with a low, constant confusion about who they are. They are living inside a story they never tested. And yes, I understand why many people avoid these questions. Life is already heavy enough. To question your worldview is to risk destabilizing yourself. To search for truth is to invite discomfort. Reflection creates friction. Serious thought produces anxiety before it produces clarity. It is much easier to stay busy, much easier to stay entertained, much easier to repeat familiar lines than to ask whether the life you are living is actually true. But the questions remain. What is this all for? What is the meaning of life? My answer is simple, even if it is not easy. The meaning of life is to know God and to be known by God. And when I say know, I do not mean knowing facts about Him, not theological trivia, not religious vocabulary, not the ability to win arguments. I mean relationship. To know God is to live with awareness of His presence, to orient your life toward Him, to let your thoughts, desires, choices, loves, and fears come under that reality. It is not information, it is communion. There is something deeply beautiful about knowing the source of all being, about knowing the one from whom all life comes. I believe that the beginning of a good life, a meaningful life, starts there. Because reason alone, though powerful, eventually reaches its walls. It narrows, it loops, it runs into dead ends. But the spiritual life opens a horizon reason cannot create by itself. Still, even here, humility is necessary. Because one of the deepest things I have learned is that the central problem is not simply figuring out what is true and what is false. It is learning to recognize what is relevant, what matters now, what belongs to your calling, what knowledge actually has weight for your life. That is harder than it sounds. We live in an age drowning in information. You can learn almost anything, hear every opinion, access every argument, study every field. But not everything deserves equal attention. Not every truth is equally urgent for every person. Some knowledge is important in itself, but irrelevant to the life you are meant to build right now. That has been hard for me, because part of me wants to learn everything. But that is impossible, so I have had to ask better questions. Who am I? What kind of life am I called to live? What do I actually want beneath vanity and imitation? What kind of knowledge helps me live truthfully before God? That process will probably continue for the rest of my life, and I have made peace with that. Because knowledge alone is not enough. You can understand something and still fail to live it. You can collect insights and remain unchanged. You can speak beautifully about truth while your life is still being governed by confusion, appetite, cowardice, ego, and fear. That is why self-knowledge matters so much. If you do not learn who you are, the world will tell you. It will assign you a role, hand you an identity, give you a script, and if you are passive enough, you will live inside it until you call it fate. But it was never fate. It was formation without examination, and the only way out is to let God confront you deeply enough that your illusions begin to crack. Because it is in relation to Him that your strengths become visible, your weaknesses become undeniable, and your false stories begin to fall apart. Only then can you begin to discover who you actually are. Only then can you begin to see the story you were meant to live. So, look around carefully. Look at the world with a mind that wants truth more than comfort. Not truth filtered through the worldview you inherited by default. Not truth reduced to what flatters your current identity. Truth itself. Sometimes that means tearing down old assumptions. Sometimes it means admitting that what you called certainty was only familiarity. Sometimes it means realizing that your intuition was not entirely wrong, but incomplete. That matters. Because most of what we believe is not absolute falsehood. It is partial truth. And partial truth is often more dangerous than obvious error because it feels finished when it is not. It traps you inside a narrow frame while convincing you that you already see clearly. I know this because I am not outside of it. I am speaking to myself too. Almost everything I believe, on some level, is either mistaken or incomplete, some things more than others, even what you are hearing now. So, do not hold my words as if they were the final form of anything. Hold them lightly, but take them seriously enough to keep seeking, because when you realize your understanding is incomplete, something good happens. You become more humble, more curious, more teachable, less arrogant in your conclusions, less threatened by what challenges you, more willing to listen. And people who learn to listen well do not just become smarter, they become harder to deceive, harder to imprison inside shallow narratives, harder to separate from truth. And maybe that is part of the struggle too, not just to survive, not just to achieve, but to see clearly enough that your life stops being a confused reaction to the world and becomes a conscious response to God. That, at least for now, is the story so far.